For 7 years, I believed I had everything a man could ever want. I was married to the love of my life, Sarah. She was beautiful, kind, and the kind of woman who made me feel like the luckiest guy in the world. From the moment I met her, I knew she was special. We had built a life together, brick by brick. Our love had survived everything: job struggles, financial worries, family drama. Through every challenge, we held on to each other. We had a beautiful home in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where the neighbors waved and kids rode their bikes in the street. Our routines were simple, comforting. Morning coffee together, long walks in the evening, late-night movies curled up on the couch. I was happy. I thought she was happy too. But I was wrong. The first change, a sudden obsession. It started with one innocent conversation. One night over dinner, Sarah casually mentioned that she wanted to start working out. "I've been feeling a little out of shape," she said, swirling her wine glass. "I think I want to join a gym." I smiled. "That's great. I can sign us up together." But she hesitated. No. I just need something for myself. You don't really like the gym, and I need this time alone." That was the first time I felt it. The tiny prick of unease. Sarah had never been into fitness. She never once complained about her body or showed any interest in working out. And now, suddenly, she was eager to hit the gym alone? Still, I didn't question it. In fact, I encouraged her. "That sounds great, babe. Do whatever makes you happy." And so she did. The first signs, little things that didn't add up. At first, everything seemed normal. She joined an upscale gym, one of those luxury fitness clubs with top-tier trainers, smoothie bars, and spa-like locker rooms. I was happy for her. But then, small changes started happening. First, it was the schedule. What started as 3 days a week quickly turned into 5. Then 6. And before I knew it, she was practically living at the gym. She started leaving the house earlier in the mornings, coming home later at night. Whenever I asked her about it, she would just shrug and say, "I lost track of time." But how do you lose track of 3 hours at the gym? Then there was her appearance. Sarah had always been effortlessly beautiful. She never needed makeup to look stunning, never dressed up unless we were going somewhere special. But suddenly, she was investing in a whole new wardrobe. Not for date nights, but for the gym. Tight leggings, sports bras that left nothing to the imagination. Expensive workout gear that looked more suited for an Instagram influencer than someone just trying to get in shape. I joked about it once. "You're dressing better for the gym than for me." She laughed it off. "I just want to look good while I work out." I wanted to believe her. But something felt different. The distance, she was slipping away. Our conversations became shorter. Our intimacy faded. She used to text me during the day, send cute little messages, checking on how work was going. Now, her phone never left her hand, but she barely replied to me. I started noticing how she smiled at her screen, little secretive grins, her fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. "Who are you texting?" I asked one night. She glanced up too quickly and locked her phone. "Just some girls from the gym." I tried not to overthink it, but it was hard not to notice how she pulled away from me, how she stopped reaching for my hand, how, at night, when we lay in bed, she seemed to be miles away. I told myself it was just a phase, that maybe she was just excited about her new hobby. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about fitness. This was something else. And soon, I was going to find out the shocking truth. At first, it seemed harmless. Sarah had never been the type to care much about fitness, but now, she was completely obsessed with the gym. It started with 3 days a week, then 4, then 5. Now, she was there every single day, sometimes for hours. "You're really getting into this, huh?" I joked one evening as she laced up her brand new running shoes. She laughed. "Yeah, I just feel amazing after a workout. It's like I finally found something I love." I wanted to be happy for her, but something didn't sit right. The subtle changes, she wasn't the same. At first, I told myself I was overreacting. People change. They grow. Maybe this was just something new she was passionate about. But soon little things started adding up. She was buying more gym clothes than normal clothes. And not just any gym clothes. Tight leggings, tiny sports bras, outfits that left nothing to the imagination. She started spending more time in front of the mirror, fixing her hair, adjusting her top, making sure everything looked perfect. And then came the selfies. Sarah had never been the kind of person who took hundreds of pictures of herself. But now, she was constantly snapping photos at the gym, posing in the mirror, adjusting her hair, making sure the lighting was just right. "Since when do you take so many pictures?" I asked one night as I watched her swipe through dozens of selfies on her phone. She smirked. "Oh, come on, it's just fun. Everyone does it." I forced a laugh. "Yeah, but who are you taking them for?" She froze for just a second, then shook her head with a smile. "Don't be silly. It's just for me." But I wasn't convinced. The phone became off limits. Sarah and I had always been open with each other. We didn't hide things. But now, her phone was always in her hand. If she left it on the table, and I so much as glanced in its direction, she would grab it instantly, locking the screen before I could even see anything. One night, we were watching TV, and her phone buzzed. I looked at the screen out of habit. She saw me, and immediately snatched it up, turning the screen away from me, swiping the notification away before I could read it. For a second, I just sat there stunned. She had never done that before. "Who was that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. She didn't even look at me. "Just a group chat from the gym." Her voice sounded off, forced, like she was lying. I wanted to press her, ask more questions, but I didn't. Instead, I just nodded. "Okay." But inside, I felt something I had never felt in our marriage before. Doubt. The flirty smiles and the late-night texts. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I was being insecure. But every time I saw her smiling at her phone, I felt my stomach tighten. She wasn't just scrolling through Instagram. She was texting someone, and whoever it was made her happy. One night, I walked into the kitchen and saw her leaning against the counter, completely lost in a text conversation. She didn't even hear me come in. Her lips were curled up into a little smirk, her fingers tapping quickly across the screen. The kind of smile she used to give me. I walked up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. She flinched, not in a playful way, not in a surprised way, but in a way that felt like she had forgotten I even existed. "What's up?" I asked softly. She quickly locked her phone and put it face down on the counter. "Nothing. Just texting the girls," she said, way too fast. I stared at her for a second. Something wasn't right. Something was very wrong. The distance between us. Sarah used to be affectionate. She used to kiss me every morning, run her fingers through my hair, pull me close when we were lying in bed. Now, she barely even looked at me. She stopped reaching for my hand, stopped calling me cute little names. At night, when I reached for her, she would turn over and pretend to be asleep. I told myself she was just tired, that maybe she was stressed, that maybe, just maybe, this was all in my head. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about fitness. This was something else. And soon, I was going to find out the shocking truth. I've been feeling uneasy for weeks. Sarah's behavior was changing too quickly, and no matter how much I tried to convince myself that it was just a phase, the feeling in my gut told me otherwise. She was obsessed with the gym, spending more time there than at home. She was glued to her phone, constantly smiling at messages she refused to let me see. She had stopped being affectionate, and I was starting to feel like I was sharing my home with a stranger. And then one day, I made a decision. I was going to surprise her at the gym. Maybe I'd finally understand what was so special about this place. Maybe I was just overthinking. Or maybe I'd finally get some answers. Stepping into her world, a different side of Sarah. The gym was nothing like I had imagined. It wasn't some basic fitness center with outdated machines and sweaty guys lifting weights. This place was elite, Spotless floors, state-of-the-art equipment, a juice bar, even a sauna. The people inside looked like they had just stepped out of a fitness magazine, perfectly toned bodies, wearing expensive workout gear. I felt out of place, but I pushed the feeling aside. I was here for one reason. Sarah. I walked past rows of treadmills and weight racks, scanning the room. And then I saw her. And for a moment, I froze. She was laughing. Not just laughing, she was glowing. And she wasn't alone. Meeting Eric, the perfect alpha male. He was standing too close to her. Tall, muscular, confident. He looked like the kind of guy who never had to try too hard to get what he wanted. Broad shoulders, a chiseled jawline, arms covered in just enough tattoos to make him look dangerous, but not intimidating. His workout shirt stretched across his chest, and his perfect, cocky smile made my skin crawl. And then there was Sarah. She was standing there, twirling a strand of her hair, a habit she had when she was nervous or excited. Her face was slightly flushed, her eyes wide as she hung onto his every word. She was too comfortable around him. And then, as if feeling my presence, she turned. Her eyes landed on me, and for a brief second, I saw something she couldn't hide. Panic. The awkward introduction. A silent battle. "Michael," she said, her voice high-pitched, forced. "What are you doing here?" I forced a smile. "Thought I'd surprise you. Maybe get a workout in." Eric turned to me, flashing that perfect, arrogant grin. "Ah, so you're the husband. Finally, we meet." He stretched out his hand, firm and confident, like a man who wasn't intimidated by anything. I gripped it, tightening my fingers just a little more than necessary. "Yeah," I said. "And you must be Eric, the famous trainer." He chuckled, running a hand through his sweat-dampened hair. "Guilty as charged. Your wife is one of my best clients. She's got incredible dedication." Sarah blushed. She actually blushed. My wife, who hadn't blushed around another man in years, was turning red in front of her trainer. Something inside me snapped. Something felt off. Eric was too charming, too smooth. Every word he spoke dripped with effortless confidence. And Sarah? She was acting differently, fidgeting, laughing at his jokes, avoiding my gaze. For the first time in 7 years, I felt like I was the outsider in my own marriage. Sarah barely acknowledged me, barely reached for my hand, as if she didn't want to break whatever connection she had with him. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to stay calm. "Well," I said, trying to keep my voice even, "since I'm here, maybe you can show me some of those amazing workouts you've been teaching my wife." Eric smirked. "Of course, man. But I gotta warn you, Sarah's a beast in the gym. You think you can keep up?" Sarah laughed. She actually laughed at his joke. And in that moment I knew. I wasn't being paranoid. Something was going on, and I was about to find out exactly what it was. Sarah was changing right in front of my eyes. And I wasn't talking about just the way she looked. Yes, she was more toned now, more fit. She had a glow about her, a new energy. But it wasn't the kind of glow that came from being happy and fulfilled. It was the kind that came from having a secret. Something was off, and the more I tried to ignore it, the more impossible it became. The gym became her second home? Or was it? Sarah had started staying later and later at the gym. At first, she would be gone for an hour or two. Then, suddenly, her workouts stretched into 3-hour sessions. Then 4. One night I checked the time. It was nearly 10 p.m., and she still wasn't home. I sent her a text. "Hey, everything okay? You still at the gym?" I waited. No response. 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Finally, my phone buzzed. "Sorry, babe. Just lost track of time. Met a new gym friend. We grabbed smoothies after our workout." A new gym friend? That was the first time she had ever mentioned someone from the gym. "Oh, cool. Who is she?" I texted back. Another long pause. Then, "Her name's Emily. She's super sweet. Emily." Okay. Except, there were no photos of Emily. No posts. No gym selfies with her. Sarah took pictures of everything. Her workouts, her protein shakes, even her new leggings. But suddenly, when she had a new best friend, nothing. The conversation that changed everything. That night, when she finally came home, I decided to ask her about it. "So, this Emily, how'd you guys meet?" I asked casually, watching her as she pulled off her gym shoes. Sarah didn't even look at me. "Oh, just at the squat rack. We got to talking, and she's super cool." I nodded. "That's great. We should all go out sometime, maybe grab dinner." She hesitated, just for a split second. But I saw it. Yeah, maybe. I'll see if she's free." She was lying. I knew it in my gut. She had always been the type to introduce me to her friends. She loved making plans, loved socializing. But now, she was dodging the idea. I let it go. For now. But inside, my stomach was twisting. The aggressive defense, a red flag I couldn't ignore. The next morning, I woke up to find Sarah already dressed and heading out the door. "You're leaving early," I said, rubbing my eyes. She smiled. "Yeah, Emily and I are trying this new morning class." "Emily again." I try to act normal. "That's cool. What's her last name?" Sarah blinked. For a second, she looked caught off guard. "Huh, Emily. What's her last name?" I repeated. Her expression changed. Her body stiffened just slightly. "Why are you asking me that?" she said, her voice sharper than I expected. I shrugged. "Just curious. You've been spending a lot of time with her, and I don't even know who she is." She exhaled, grabbing her gym bag. "Michael, you're overthinking this. I don't interrogate you about your friends." "I'm not interrogating. I'm just asking a basic question." She rolled her eyes. "God, do you not trust me now?" Her words hit me like a slap. She had never spoken to me like that before. I wasn't accusing her of anything. I was just asking. But her reaction said everything. She was pulling away, and I didn't know why. The days passed, and the distance between us grew. Sarah was always at the gym, and even when she was home, she wasn't really there. She stopped asking about my day, stopped cuddling up next to me on the couch, stopped kissing me goodnight. Our conversations felt forced, short, empty. She wasn't my Sarah anymore. Something had changed, and I was going to find out exactly what. Something inside me had been warning me for weeks. The gym obsession, the constant texting, the late nights, the sudden emotional distance between us. I felt it, that gut-wrenching sense that something was wrong. But I kept pushing it aside, telling myself I was overthinking, that I was just being insecure. But then, one night, everything changed, because I found proof. And in that moment, my entire world shattered. The moment it happened, it was a Friday night. Sarah had come home from another late session at the gym. She was acting weird, more distracted than usual. She barely spoke during dinner, kept glancing at her phone, smiling to herself before quickly locking the screen. Afterward, she went upstairs to take a shower. I stayed downstairs, trying to focus on the game playing on TV, but my mind kept drifting back to her. Something wasn't right. Then I saw it. Her phone. It was sitting on the couch, right where she had left it. Unlocked. For the first time in weeks, she had been careless. My heart started racing. I had never gone through her phone before. We had always trusted each other. But now, that trust was hanging by a thread. I reached for the phone, hesitating for only a second before flipping it over. And that's when I saw it. The message that changed everything. A text from Eric, her personal trainer. And it wasn't just any message. "Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again, Redheart." My hands went numb. I read it again, and again, and again. My heart was pounding in my ears, my stomach twisted in a way I had never felt before. "Last night? Incredible? See you again?" A heart emoji. I couldn't breathe. Sarah, my wife. The woman I had loved and trusted for 7 years had betrayed me. Shock, denial, rage. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. This couldn't be happening. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I was misunderstanding something. I opened their chat. There were more messages, flirty texts, inside jokes, late-night conversations, and then photos. A picture of them at the gym, her leaning into him, his arm casually resting around her waist. And then further down, a photo from the locker room. She wasn't wearing her usual gym clothes. She was wearing a towel, and I felt like I was going to be sick. The sound of the shower and my breaking heart. Upstairs, I could hear the water still running. Sarah was in the shower, completely unaware that I had just discovered the truth. That I had just seen what she had been hiding from me all this time. My hands were shaking. I could barely hold the phone. I wanted to scream. I wanted to storm upstairs and confront her right there, right then. But I didn't. Instead, I just sat there, staring at the screen, my world crashing down around me. Sarah. My Sarah. The woman who had once looked at me like I was her whole world. Now, she was looking at someone else that way. And I had the proof. The moment I saw that message from Eric, something inside me snapped. There was no more doubt, no more second-guessing, no more telling myself I was overthinking. Sarah was lying to me. And if she could lie about this, then what else was she hiding? I needed to know everything. Not just texts, not just photos. I needed proof. I needed to see it with my own eyes. So, I did something I never thought I would do. I decided to follow her. The first night, the gym that wasn't. The next evening, Sarah was getting ready like usual. Tight leggings, a fitted sports bra. She sprayed on perfume, something she had never done before going to the gym. She grabbed her bag and kissed me on the cheek. I'll be late tonight. We're doing an extra-long session. I forced a smile. No problem. Have fun. She walked out the door, and 10 minutes later, so did I. The chase. Where was she really going? I stayed a few cars behind as I followed her down the highway. She drove like nothing was wrong, like she had no idea that her entire life was about to fall apart. We were heading toward the gym, and for a second, I almost doubted myself. Maybe she really was just working out. Maybe I was being crazy. But then, she drove past the gym. She didn't even slow down. Instead, she kept going, taking a side street, turning into an area of town I knew too well. A place filled with hotels and motels. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. She pulled into the parking lot of a small boutique hotel, the kind with luxury suites, the kind couples booked when they didn't want to be seen. My stomach twisted into knots. She parked, and I waited, watching, praying that somehow I was wrong. And then, just as I feared, he arrived. Eric, her trainer, the man she swore was just a friend. He pulled up beside her car, stepped out, and without hesitation, Sarah got out and walked straight into his arms. I felt like I was going to be sick. The confirmation, no more lies. They didn't even look around to check if anyone was watching. They weren't being careful, because in their minds, I was at home, sitting on the couch like a fool, believing every word she told me. Eric placed his hand on her lower back, guiding her toward the hotel entrance. She laughed at something he said. She looked at him the way she used to look at me. And then, they disappeared inside. Frozen in time, the moment my world fell apart. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, my entire body numb. This was it. This was the moment that changed everything. There was no misunderstanding. No excuses. No way for her to explain this away. She was cheating, and I had just watched it happen. I don't know how long I sat there. Minutes? Hours? Time felt irrelevant. The woman I had loved, the woman I had built a life with, gone, replaced by a stranger who had just walked into a hotel with another man. And the worst part? She had no idea I knew. But soon, she would. I should have driven home. I should have left. I should have given myself time to process what I had just seen, but I couldn't. Something inside me snapped. A burning rage, a deep betrayal, a fire I had never felt before. I wasn't going to sit in my car like a fool while my wife was inside a hotel with another man. I had to see it. I had to catch them. Storming in, no more hiding. I threw my car door open and marched straight toward the hotel entrance. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. There was no more second-guessing. I pushed through the revolving doors, stepping into the hotel lobby. And that's when I saw them. The image that will haunt me forever. There they were, Sarah and Eric, standing right in the middle of the lobby, not even in a hurry to get to her room, not even trying to hide. She was holding his hand. My wife, holding another man's hand. She was smiling at him, her body leaning into his as if it was the most natural thing in the world. And then she saw me. Her entire body froze. Her eyes widened. Her smile instantly vanished. And for a split second, she looked like she had seen a ghost. Eric turned his head, confused by her reaction. Then he followed her gaze. And the second his eyes met mine, he panicked. His hand jerked away from hers, his entire posture stiffened, and he took a nervous step back, like a guilty man caught in the act. Sarah's lips parted, but no sound came out. She was speechless. Good, because I had plenty to say. The moment of truth, no more lies. I took slow, measured steps toward them. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, the pure rage bubbling under my skin. But I kept my voice calm, controlled. Having fun? I asked. Sarah blinked rapidly, shaking her head as if trying to process what was happening. Michael, this isn't what it looks like. Not what it looks like. I laughed, a sharp, bitter laugh. They always say that, don't they? Eric shifted uncomfortably, glancing around as if looking for an escape route. Dude, listen, he started. I cut him off with a glare so sharp he shut his mouth immediately. You don't get to talk. His jaw clenched, but he didn't say another word. Because he knew. He knew he was caught. Sarah reached out toward me, her eyes desperate. Michael, please, let's just go home and talk about this. I stepped back. Her hand hovered in the air before she let it drop to her side, her face crumbling. For years, I had loved this woman. For years, I had trusted her. And now, she wasn't my wife anymore. She was just a stranger in my life story. The breaking point. Walking away. I shook my head, laughing again, but this time it was empty. I gave you everything. My voice was barely above a whisper. Everything. Sarah's face twisted in pain. Michael, I held up a hand. I didn't want to hear it. Not now. Not ever. I turned to Eric. He still looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. He had the nerve to act like he was the victim here. She's all yours, buddy, I said. And with that, I turned around and walked away. The last thing I heard. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Because the last thing I heard as I walked out of that hotel was Sarah breaking down in tears. And Eric? He didn't say a word. Because deep down, he knew this wasn't going to end well for either of them. But that wasn't my problem anymore. Sarah made her choice. And now it was my turn to finally walk away. I didn't look back. Not when I walked out of that hotel. Not when I got into my car, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Not when I drove home, my mind replaying the moment over and over again, Sarah's hand in his. The panic in her eyes when she saw me. The way Eric immediately stepped back like the guilty coward he was. It was all so clear now. The late nights, the secret smiles, the texts she tried to hide. It was never about Emily from the gym. It was never about her getting in shape. It was about him. And now there was nothing left to question. Nothing left to save. But Sarah didn't know that yet. The waiting game let her come to me. When I got home, I didn't pace the floor. I didn't drink. I didn't break anything. I just sat there in the dark, waiting, because I knew she would come home eventually. And when she did, I wanted to see exactly how she was going to play this. Denial? Lies? Or the truth? She walks in, and everything stops. It was almost midnight when I heard the sound of her keys in the front door. The soft creak as she stepped inside. I didn't turn on the lights, didn't say a word. I just sat there watching, waiting. Sarah hesitated in the doorway, her breathing uneven. She knew. She could feel that something was wrong. Good. She finally took a step forward, her voice quiet, uncertain. Michael, I said nothing. She took another step. Why are you sitting in the dark? She asked. I leaned forward slightly, my voice calm. Too calm. Where were you? Her whole body tensed. She swallowed hard, forcing out a small, nervous laugh. Babe, I told you I had a late workout, and then Emily and I cut her off. Try again. Silence. Her eyes darted around the room as if looking for an escape route. She knew. She knew I knew, but she still wasn't ready to admit it. The break, the lies start to crack. Michael, whatever you're thinking, it's not what it looks like. I interrupted. Her mouth snapped shut. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and flipped the screen toward her. The text message from Eric glowed in the darkness. Last night was incredible. Can't wait to see you again, red heart. Her face drained of color. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She was caught. There was nothing she could say. And then, just like that, the tears started. The confession, too late for sorry. At first, they were silent, just heavy tears rolling down her face. Then came the sobs. She dropped to her knees, covering her face with both hands. Michael, please, please, just listen to me. I stared down at her. The woman I had spent years loving. The woman who had promised me forever. And now, she was kneeling in front of me, crying over a mistake she never meant for me to find out. I never wanted to hurt you, she choked out. I swear I didn't plan for this to happen. I didn't move, didn't say a word. It was a mistake, she whispered. I got caught up in it in him. I was confused. I was stupid. I didn't know what I was doing. A mistake. She called it a mistake. The moment I knew it was over. You didn't know what you were doing? I repeated, my voice eerily calm. She nodded quickly. Too quickly. Then explain this, I said, holding up my phone again, scrolling through their messages. The flirting. The late-night conversations. The secret meetings. The photo of her in the locker room, wrapped in a towel, smiling at the camera. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, shaking her head. Michael, don't lie to me again. My voice was sharp now. Final. Her entire body shook with another sob. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. I love you. I let out a breathless laugh, shaking my head. You love me? I asked, my voice full of disbelief. She nodded desperately. Then why did you do this? She had no answer. Because there was no answer. Not one that could ever make this okay. The final question, can I forgive her? Sarah reached for me again, her hands trembling. Please tell me we can fix this. Tell me we can find a way back. I looked down at her, at the woman I thought I knew, at the woman who had chosen someone else over me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel love. I didn't feel anger. I just felt empty, because the truth was, there was no way back. Not anymore. I thought I had hit rock bottom. I thought catching her red-handed was the worst pain I could ever feel. But I was wrong, because the real pain? It came after, when I realized that I had been the last person to know. That while I was at home, working, trusting her, loving her, other people were laughing behind my back. Other people knew the truth before I did, and they said nothing. The first hint, a suspicious conversation. It happened a few days after I caught Sarah at the hotel. I was at work, still in a daze, still feeling like I was trapped in some twisted nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. Everything felt different now. Even the way people looked at me. like they knew something I didn't. Then, during lunch, one of my coworkers, Jake, a guy I had known for years, pulled me aside. "Hey, man, can we talk for a second?" His tone was off, too cautious, too guilty. I frowned. "Yeah, what's up?" He hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. "Listen, I don't know if I should be saying this, but I just need to ask. You and Sarah, you guys are good, right?" I stared at him. "Why are you asking me that?" Jake sighed, looking around like he didn't want anyone else to hear what he was about to say. I've just been hearing some things about her and Eric." A cold chill ran down my spine. "What things?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Jake exhaled, shaking his head. "Man, people have been talking about them for months. The betrayal. Everyone knew before me." My heart stopped. "What do you mean, months?" I asked, barely able to get the words out. Jake looked pained, like he regretted bringing it up. "I thought you knew, man. I swear I did. I thought you were just ignoring it or something." Ignoring it? Ignoring what? I felt like my entire body had gone numb. "Jake, what are you talking about?" He hesitated. Then, finally, he said the words that would destroy me all over again. "Dude, pretty much the whole gym knew about them." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. "Everyone knew?" I repeated, barely above a whisper. He nodded slowly. "Yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly a secret. They weren't careful, Mike. They would flirt openly, leave the gym together. There were rumors, man. A lot of them." I clenched my fist so hard I thought my nails might cut into my skin. This wasn't just some affair in the shadows. This wasn't some accident, some mistake. This was public. Sarah and Eric weren't just sneaking around. They were parading their affair right in front of people. People who saw me, knew me, and said nothing. The ultimate humiliation. I felt sick. I had been walking around like a damn fool, completely unaware that I was the joke of the gym, that while I was at home, waiting for her to come back, believing every pathetic lie she fed me, other people were whispering about me, pitying me, laughing at me. And Jake? He knew. My own friend knew. And he had never once pulled me aside to warn me. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice raw. Jake sighed again, looking genuinely guilty. "I didn't know if it was true. And I didn't want to be the guy who ruined your marriage over some rumors, you know?" I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Yeah? Well, guess what? My marriage was already ruined." He looked down, saying nothing. Because what was there to say? The breaking point, no more denial. I left work early that day. I needed air. I needed to get away from all of it. The lies, the humiliation, the people who had watched it all happen and let me walk around blind. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was done. Done being the guy who trusted. Done being the guy who forgave. Done being the guy who let people walk all over him. Sarah had played me. Eric had played me. And worst of all, the world had watched it happen. And let me be the last to know. But now, it was my turn to decide how this story ended. When people hear my story, they always ask me the same thing. How did you handle it? Did you get revenge? Did you break down? Lose yourself? And the truth is, I walked away. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't throw a punch at Eric, even though every muscle in my body was begging me to. Because in that moment, I realized something. I had already lost. I had already lost Sarah a long time ago. The last words we ever said. After everything, after the lies, after the humiliation, after seeing her in that hotel lobby with him, Sarah still had the audacity to try and talk me out of leaving. She cried. She begged. "Michael, please. I made a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen this way." I just stared at her. "You didn't mean for it to happen this way?" I repeated, my voice eerily calm. She nodded desperately, her face red, tears streaming down her cheeks. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted, but now I do. "I choose you. I want us to fix this." I almost laughed. She was only choosing me now because she got caught. I shook my head. "No, you don't get to choose now. You already made your choice. And it wasn't me. She reached for me again. I stepped back. That was the moment it hit her. I was done. Truly, finally done. And then I said the last words I would ever say to her. You're not my problem anymore, Sarah. And with that, I walked away. The hardest year of my life. Leaving was the easiest and hardest thing I had ever done. Easiest because I knew staying would mean losing myself. Hardest because no matter what she did, she had still been my wife. And learning how to live without her? It was a slow, brutal process. The first few weeks were the worst. I would wake up in the middle of the night reaching for someone who wasn't there. The silence of the house felt louder than any scream. And the worst part? I wasn't just grieving the end of my marriage. I was grieving the person I thought Sarah was. The woman I had built my future around never existed. The turning point, rebuilding myself. One night, about 3 months after I left, I looked at myself in the mirror, and I hated what I saw. I looked tired, defeated, empty. That's when I realized I wasn't just mourning Sarah. I was letting her win. She had destroyed our marriage. I wasn't going to let her destroy me too. So I made a decision. Instead of drowning in my past, I was going to focus on my future. I hit the gym, not to impress someone else, but to finally take care of myself. I started traveling, seeing the world instead of sitting in the ruins of my old life. I reconnected with old friends. I built something new, and slowly, piece by piece, I became happy again. The moment she came back, almost a year later, I was in a completely different place. Stronger, wiser, free. And then, out of nowhere, Sarah reached out. A text. One simple message that sent me right back to the past. Hey, can we talk? I stared at my screen, shaking my head. Of course, she was back. I ignored it. Then a week later, another text. I miss you. I was stupid. I know that now. I need to see you. This time I laughed. She needed to see me? Where was this realization when she was sneaking around behind my back? Where was this regret when she was holding another man's hand in that hotel lobby? She wasn't sorry she lost me. She was sorry she lost the version of me that loved her unconditionally. But that man? He was gone. The final goodbye. I never responded. I never needed to. Because the truth was, she wasn't even worth my anger anymore. Once upon a time, Sarah was everything to me. Now, she was just a lesson, a painful one, but one I would never forget. And as I stood there, staring at that last message, I finally understood something. Betrayal isn't the end of your story. Sometimes, it's the beginning of a much better one. Sometimes, betrayal is the best lesson life can give you.